Welcome to this video, this exploration into the 5-1 profile. I am slowly making my way through the profile series for human design, and today is the day for the 5-1 profile. What our profile type shows us are our core personality characteristics. There are 12 different profiles, and they do move in a chronological order. So the very first one is the 1-3, the very final one is the 6-3. And you can actually see the human design profiles as this progression of identity evolution. So I personally believe, through more of an evolutionary human design perspective, that we actually have the capacity for all of the profile numbers within us. And fun fact, you can actually see this in the sides of your design. There are those two columns that show all the different gates active in your chart. And next to each of those gate numbers is a line number. So let's say you don't have a 5-1, but maybe you're watching this video because you have a lot of 5 lines or a lot of 1 lines. However, most of you, I'm sure, will be watching this video because you are a 5-1, or you love a 5-1, or you work with a 5-1, or your child is a 5-1. Somehow you're just curious about this profile and the energetics. So essentially that's what a human design profile is. It's your personality energetics. And there are 2 parts of every human design profile. The first number is your conscious self. It is who you be in the light of day. It's an identity you can stand quite firmly and courageously in. It feels really natural, typically. And also, it's something that is really powerful for curating your ideal career path in the world, knowing how people receive you and perceive you. It can actually illuminate a lot of insight around the ideal role or trajectory that you take in this lifetime. And that can change and shift. The second number is more of your unconscious self. So I find this fascinating because, right, we all have unconscious needs. And when we don't have awareness over the extent of our unconscious, it can play out in ways that can kind of wreak havoc in our life. So I love this about human design with this unconscious profile number, because it can provide so much of a window into what do you actually really need that you might not know you need. Who is it that you are deep down, but maybe you don't have so much self-awareness around, and you need the reflections of others. I also feel like that second number in our profile helps us learn how to receive support, because we can't see it so clearly on our own. We need the reflection of aligned community, friends, family, relationships to really see the gifts in that second number. So first number, conscious, second number, unconscious. And if you are a 5-1, let's get into it. So I'm going to start by giving I love looking at life through more of a mythical archetypal lens. And when we have a 5-1, some of the archetypes that come up for me are the spokesperson, the head of the organization. There's also a very strong phantom-like quality to a 5-1, and we'll go into that. There's this phantom, or perhaps a magician or an alchemist. I feel like 5-1 energy can also be very shamanic, because it can shapeshift, and it can also change and take on different forms depending on who is viewing the 5-1. So some core archetypes to perhaps play with: the phantom, the magician, the spokesperson. Also, there's definitely a quality here around the prophet, because a huge theme of the 5-1 is you have a message to share. So overarching theme, before we get into the nitty-gritty, you can take on many personas. You can be a shapeshifter. You can adapt to who you're with, which can be used benevolently or malevolently, consciously or unconscious. But you do have a message to share. And you may have felt your whole life like you have a message to share. And maybe that message has been clear, or maybe it's changed and shifted over the course of your life. But there is this sense with that 5 line in the conscious position of I have to speak, I have to share, I want to compute, I want to express, somehow I want to transmit this deep knowing I have. And sometimes it can be a lifelong journey of having experiences, diving deeply into yourself, career paths, relationships, to really understand what that message is. But I do see that to be a really concurring theme for 5-1 people. And I'm blessed to have known a lot of 5-1s and have 5-1s close to me. So I feel like, of course, it's through my own personal lens, but I do my best to have a transpersonal perspective on the personality archetypes of these designs. So let's break it down. Let's start with the basics. A conscious 5 line. The conscious 5 line in traditional human design lingo, which I have kind of grown and evolved from, is the heretic. Now, what is a heretic? A heretic is someone who has a message to share. They want to convince the people, they want to share their message, they want to sing it from the rooftops, they have a belief that they want to express, and ideally enroll other people into that. So there is like a bit of an enrollment energy with the 5 line. I think 5 line people tend to, and who doesn't, but tend to care a lot about their reputation in a sense, because if we look at the analogy of a house, which is a very traditional human design lens for the profiles, when we get to the 5th line, we are in the 2nd floor of the house, and we have a person, you maybe, standing in like the 2nd floor bedroom. Let's say the bedroom. Bedroom is a very 5 line place, I think. And they're standing at the window, and it's nighttime. And they're looking out the window, down at the street below them. They see people walking by, and the light in the room is on, but there's a sheer curtain across the window. So the 5 line can see clearly who's on the street below them, what's going on, what the people are up to, right? They can see what's going on. But the people on the street are looking up at the 5 line, and all they see is a silhouette. All they see is a shadow. Hence the phantom. Hence the sense of the mystery. There is an aura, there is a veil of mystery around 5 line people. And this is something that can really work to your benefit, and it can be your downfall. So we'll get to that. We'll get to the strengths and weaknesses, the gifts and the challenges. But the conscious 5 line is you have a message. Think of the person up on the podium, right? Like bearing their heart to the world. Like, this is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. And the 5 line can take that quality. I tend to find though, and I'd love to hear your reflections below, I feel like the 5 line tends to do this in more of a discreet way and in more of an embodied way. And I think this is healthy for the 5 line of like, are you walking the talk? Let's say there's something you really believe in. Your 1 line, the investigator, we'll get to that, has helped you see and understand what you really believe in and what really matters to you and who you really are. Then it becomes a lifelong journey of learning, how do I translate that through my embodiment, right? Through my message, because talk is cheap, right? You could also say the 5 one is like the politician, because they're advocating, right? They have a message, they're speaking to the people. But the politician is only as exceptional as their follow-through. Without follow-through, the talk means nothing. So I think that is a really beautiful point of integrity for 5 ones, and I think 5 ones naturally feel this compulsion to want to live an integrous life. Or maybe you get challenged by the people in your life when you're not, or you may feel like maybe life, the universe, people are a little harder on you. It's because you do carry this core quality of being a leader, and to be a empowering leader is to be in integrity, to be true to your word, right? To say what you mean and to follow through, to keep your promises, to be a walking embodiment of what you say you believe. And that's when people can really get around you, and they want to be a part of what you're doing because they feel that integrity and they feel they want to be led by you. I do find that 5-1 people do really well when they're leading something. But let's jump around a little bit. Let's get to that 1 line. It has to be something that really matters to you, because the unconscious self of a 5-1 is the 1 line, is the investigator. The investigator is all about diving deeply into life, wanting to know the ins and outs, wanting to really scrape the bottom of the barrel of life, and perhaps in certain areas where you are incredibly passionate. And passionate doesn't only have to mean excited and happy. Sometimes it's like the hard knocks and the deep journeys of pain and challenge and strife and struggle, because 5 line wants to universalize, right? Pain, struggle, overcoming, motivation. These are universal human experiences that unify us. So when a 5-1 has the willingness to dive deeply into life, dive deeply into their own psychology, dive deeply into their own experiences, their own childhood, their own traumas, their own wounds, their own pain, and let that, gestate some message through your own embodied heart, through your own heart, and through your own embodied walking path, that is when 5-1s come into their power. That is when you can have massive influence on the world around you. And you may not want to have massive influence. I'm not saying that that is, the epitome of success. You may not want that. It could be within your community. It could be within your family unit. It could be within your household. It could be within a certain organization you care for. It could be as an employee. I think there's a lot of pressure in this day and age around like becoming a superstar, and like everyone has to be the main character. And I think that that's beautiful if that's what's true for you, but also these things can be played out in really small scale, deeply satisfying ways. But that is a point of deep satisfaction for 5/1s is, are you going deeply into your own experience of life? Are you giving yourself the space and time and encouragement to collect the wisdom from what you've experienced in life? Through the pain, through the grit, through the hardship? And are you going to allow yourself to carry that message forth? Through how you carry yourself, through the kind of work you do in the world, through the way you present yourself, through the way you show up and care for others. I feel like 5/1s thrive when they have some sense of mission and purpose. I think to an extent we all do. 5/1s have a deeper need for that. So let's go into that a little further. A lot of people know the 5 line to be like the fixer, especially when you have a 5/1. And this is a gift that a 5/1 has, but it can also quickly travel into the realm of shadow and challenge. You have a natural kind of savior energy in you and a really powerful capacity to fix things, to go in and make things better, to find the, bottlenecks, to improve the systems, to offer your support and guidance. However, especially in relationships of all kinds, work relationships, partnership, romance, friendships, sometimes the 5/1 can get stuck in this role, or subconsciously sucked into this role of, not sucked in, but maybe can fall into a role of wanting to save people, like playing the teacher, or offering the fixing and the perspective and the guidance where maybe it's not really being solicited. And it's benevolent enough because the 5 line does want to fix and correct and direct, and the 1 line can see things so acutely. However, 5/1 energy, I do feel, operates best when it's invited into expression, when there's an invitation. And I think it's really healthy. I've worked with a lot of 5/1s who sometimes get caught up in relationship dynamics where they're attracting in people, or they're in relationship with people who kind of lean on them as the savior. And this is with no judgment or anything, right? But 5/1s, I think, can sometimes like that role of like wanting a project. And it's like, I think a better use of a 5/1 energy is, what project are you creating in your own life? And not getting too sidelined or distracted by the relationships in your life and how you can fix them or improve them, or what you think they could do better, or how they need to show up different, or how you can save them, let's just use that word. And more so, what mission really evokes your heart? What do you really care about? Are you giving your energy to that? Because the 5 line, I'm going to keep saying this, it wants to universalize. 5 line is all about universalization. Bigger picture, bigger message. I think of a great example of a 5/1 is Lady Gaga, right? Like, talk about phantom shapeshifter. She went from her birth name, which I think is like Stephania or Stephanie, and she totally created her own like phantom identity, right? Like Lady Gaga. And so much of her message was about, self-love. And she advocated hugely to like the LGBT community. And born this way, and like just like a lot about like loving who you are and embracing who you are and embracing your quirkiness and your weirdness, right? That's a universal message. And I think that's where, when the pivot happens, where 5 lines move away from the unconscious 1 line, which is the one-to-one, personal, investigating and kind of dissecting everyone around you, looking outside of you, focusing maybe sometimes even a little too intensely on yourself, but shifting into that conscious role of the universalizer. Like, what messages really speak to your heart? Maybe you really care about women's empowerment, or wage gaps, or like alternative health, or the children, or balancing economies, or what's the bigger theme? What are some bigger topics, some universal causes that spark your heart? And that's where you are going to be pulled into your greatness. And that 1 line is a gift, need to take a breath. That one line is such a gift because you can investigate deeply. Like, let's say you get really passionate about children, right? Like safety for children. Maybe that's like children who have been victims of abuse, let's just say. You know how to find the details you need to find. You know, you can like call the right people, you tap into your networks, put out a message, get the support, do your research, like search the web. Like, you have a natural investigator in you. You can go deeper than most. You can really get in there and find the nitty-gritty details, build solid foundations. But you want to be working that 5 line first. What's really important to me? What really matters? What do I really care about? And leading from that space. And when you do, you will find that people who are aligned with that message will flock to you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about people and the 5 line. The 5 line is definitely known as a projection-oriented profile, because I'll give you another example of what this could look like. But right, you're up in the window and people are just seeing their, in a way, interpretation of you. And a lot of people will be able to see you if they have a clear mirror. You know, you may find that it's far and few in between, like people who are just really seeing you for you, beyond the role, beyond the message, beyond the phantom shape-shifting guys, just seeing you for you. And those are your like ride or dies. You don't need to have a lot. However, because there's a projection element to this profile, there's a gift to this and there's a shadow. I'm gonna always keep it real on my channel. I like to look at the full spectrum. The gift is that you can play many roles. You know, like I would also say fantasy is a very strong core word for this profile. You can play in the realm of fantasy. You can play in the realm of imagination, projection, curating and cultivating an identity. Like, that can actually be really good for you. Like, if you have a brand personally, create a bit of a like an avatar around it. What is the I'm gonna start talking in like Kelly lingo, but what is the entity? What is the frequency of your brand? And then what would that look like through your clothing, through how you dress, through how you carry yourself, through your style, where you live? Like, you can really create your whole own avatar, and that can work for you. The downside, though, is not getting too attached to other people's projections and opinions of you, whether they're amazing or really hard to swallow, because it's going to be both ways. And the trick is to hold a even keel. Some people will think you're a savior, right? Because they're kind of projecting their own internalized love for themselves, or maybe longing for love for themselves, onto you. Like, oh my God, you're so amazing, and you're just like the most incredible person in the world, and I want to be like you, and you know, whatever it is, or you saved my life. Like, 5-1s can get a lot of stuff like that. And right, if you're not keeping yourself in check, that can really go to your ego. And they can get a lot of projection of the opposite. Maybe a lot of disregard or shame or assumptions put onto them. You, whoever's listening to this, whether you're listening for yourself or another. So it's really important to keep a balanced ego of whether you love me or you hate me. Am I on point with my message? Am I moving forward on my message? Because if we, which most humans have, are struggling with like people-pleasing mechanisms or seeking validation through the love from others, you can kind of sap your own power by just feeding off of those little hits of appreciation, or really entering power dynamics where that appreciation isn't there. So I feel like the biggest work for 5-1 is find your lane, cultivate your identity, cultivate your phantasmic archetype, and go with that. The right people will come, people will go. If you find your real ones, your ride or dies, you're set, you don't need a lot. But don't get too attached to other people's expectations or appreciations or fantasies or disregard of it for you. So one more example of 5-1. I like this one. I heard this one time and it really stuck with me. The 5-1 is like a ballerina who is putting on a performance, right? She has this role. Let's say it's like Swan Lake. She's the Swan Queen, and she's playing this role, and she's dancing, and she's captivated everybody. She's enchanted the crowd. It's mysterious, it's alluring. No one knows who this woman is because she's the Swan Queen, right? Now the show ends, and if that ballerina walks out into the arena, the auditorium, and starts talking with people, it, in a way, dilutes the magic, you know? Like, she's the Swan Queen. She's not Natalie Parker. She's the Swan Queen. So there's something like that with the 5-1. It's like you can thrive when you are actually a little bit removed. You're up on that second floor of the house. You're shrouded by the veil of the curtain. And if you have deep acceptance for yourself and your journey and who you are, that can really work for you. But if you're caught up in like people pleasing or needing energy outside of you or seeking validation, you might want to be leaving the second floor of the house, going out on the street and trying to tell people who you are and get to be friends with everybody. Like that's not the best way for a 5-1. It's actually better for you to be reserved. It's better for you to be a bit shrouded in the veil, behind the veil. It's better for you to be a bit mysterious and trust that the real ones, they're gonna walk up the stairs, knock on the door, and then you get to suss it out. Like, do I want to let you in here? Do you see me? Am I seeing you? Like, is this a good match? But you don't need to be loved by everybody. And I think that is definitely something I've noticed in lots of 5-1s that I've known or have worked with, is overcoming that need to be loved by everybody and finding deep love for yourself and deep conviction through a mission that is bigger than you, and then stepping into service for that mission. So that is what I have for the 5-1 profiles. If you are interested in having an intensive advanced human design reading, I've actually recently updated my offers. I've reduced the price and the timing slightly, and I just wanted to make it more accessible, so you can find that below. Thanks for tuning in. I would love to hear your reflections, thoughts, questions below. If you are a 5-1, or if you know a 5-1 and how this resonated for you, or what curiosity it stirs in your heart. Keep shining, and I will see you on the next video.